Good morning. Welcome to Read With Me, NTI Day 21. We're going to read the text. It's Opening Day by W.M. Akers. All right. And from the photograph, opening day is referring to baseball. The weather was growing crisper. It was getting dark later, and Matthew had stopped wearing a coat to school. Spring was coming, but that didn't matter to him. What was really important was it was April. April meant baseball. April meant the end of the long, cold off season. April meant opening day. The local team was called the Crickets. It wasn't a very tough name for a baseball team, but that was okay. The Crickets weren't a major league team with a 50,000 seat stadium, expensive tickets, and big name players. They were a minor league team, and that suited Matthew just fine. The stadium was small, the tickets were cheap, and the players weren't famous, at least not right now. Some were young players, only 7 or 8 years older than Matthew, with dreams of playing in the big leagues and the talent to make it happen. Other players were older. Their time in the big leagues finished, but they stuck around the Crickets because they weren't ready yet to let go of the game that had defined them ever since childhood. And then there were players like Billy Carney, the shortstop. He had manned the space between second and third base for as long as Matthew could remember. Each year, he was one of the two best players on the team, but he never did quite well enough to get called up to the majors. Each opening day, Matthew was shocked to see that Billy was still playing for the Crickets. "Geez, Dad," he would say, "I can't believe Billy didn't get called up to the big leagues this year." "You think he played pretty well last season?" his father would ask. "Are you kidding?" Matthew's face turned purple whenever anybody questioned Billy Carney. He hit 27 home runs. He had 98 RBIs. He walked more than anybody else on the team. Matthew didn't need a baseball card to tell him Billy's statistics. He knew them by heart, from studying the sports page every morning at breakfast to see how Billy and the other Crickets had played the night before. Over the winter, he committed all of their numbers to memory, and at night he would recite them to himself until he fell asleep. "How was he fielding?" Matthew's father would ask, teasing him. "I bet he made a lot of errors." "Dad, are you crazy? He moves like a spider out there. Nobody turns a double play faster than Billy. Nobody's better at tagging runners out. Last season, he didn't make an error for—" Matthew thought for a moment, doing the math in his head. 47 games. That's not bad. Then how come he didn't get called up to the majors? "I don't know. It's not fair. He's better than most of the guys you see playing on TV. "It's good news for us, right? Now we get to watch him play live for another season. I'm telling you, Dad, he's the best." Matthew and his father had gone to see the Crickets play every opening day since Matthew was born. Their family celebrated a lot of holidays: Thanksgiving, Halloween, the 4th of July, not to mention Matthew's and his sister's birthdays. But as far as he was concerned, opening day was the best one. It was usually on a weekday, and his dad always let him skip school to go. "There are some things you can only learn in school," he told Matthew once, "and there are some things you can only learn at the ballpark." Each year, Matthew and his dad wore Crickets jerseys and Crickets hats, and they always got to the ballpark early enough to watch the hitters take batting practice. County Stadium was an old ballpark, almost as old as Matthew's dad himself, and it had started to get a little shabby by the time Matthew started going to games. The scoreboard was rusty, the speakers were screechy, and the chairs weren't as comfortable as they could have been. But on a sunny day, Matthew thought, it was the most beautiful stadium in the world. Last year was perfect. The sun was bright, the sky was clear, and there was just enough of a breeze to remind them that summer wasn't quite here yet. The Crickets won 4-2. Matthew ate 2 hot dogs and a plastic baseball helmet full of ice cream, and Billy Carney bowed to the fans when he ran out onto the field. They went to a lot of games the rest of the summer, but opening day, as always, was his favorite. On the coldest days of winter, when wind cut through Matthew's parka and his fingers turned as pink as Vienna sausages, Matthew remembered opening day and the outfield grass that was as green and perfect as the Emerald City in The Wizard of Oz. "I've got bad news," said Matthew's father 2 days before the season started. "I can't go to opening day this year." "Dad," said Matthew, "that is a dumb joke." "I'm not kidding. Your sister's play is Sunday afternoon." Her play is happening for 3 days. We're watching it at school on Monday. Why don't you just come then? I've got to work, kid. I'm really sorry. Matthew's father looked sad, but Matthew did not. He did not cry. He did not scream. He did not yell at his father about breaking promises. One of the things that he could only learn at the ballpark is that there's no crying in baseball. So Matthew didn't cry, but he wanted to. Why don't we go to the game Monday night? His father asked. Matthew wanted to explain that night games were no good, that he had been waiting all winter for blue skies and green grass and sunshine. Night games were fine in the middle of the summer when it was too hot to sit out in the sun, but it was April. He didn't want to go to County Stadium in his parka, but he didn't know how to put it into words. I want to go to opening day, he said finally. I've got an idea, said his dad. It's kind of crazy, but do you want to go by yourself? What? You're old enough now. When I was your age, I'd go to games alone all the time. I know it's not what we usually do, but it could be fun. Go to the game alone? Asked Matthew. He had to admit, it was better than not going at all. The sky was blue, the grass was green, and Matthew wore his Cricket's jersey and Cricket's hat. His seat was right where he liked along the first base line, behind the home dugout, and all his favorite players were in the lineup, with Billy Carney batting first. He took out his scorecard and carefully wrote their names down. During the game, he would make notes of what happened, who got a double, who struck out, who had the big home run. It was an old-fashioned thing to do, but Matthew liked it because it helped keep him focused on the game. His father had taught him how to keep score. It was a perfect day for baseball, so why did Matthew feel so gloomy? During the second and fifth innings, Matthew bought hot dogs from the hot dog vendor. His dad had given him $20 to spend, and Matthew was going to spend all of it. He wanted to get a plastic baseball helmet full of ice cream, but he had to go to the concession stands for that. And if he stopped watching the game, he wouldn't be able to write down what happened on his scorecard. If it were later in the season, this wouldn't worry him so much. But today was opening day, and the scorecard, everything had to be perfect. He decided to skip the seventh inning stretch. This was a big sacrifice because singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game was one of the best parts of going to see the Crickets. The mascot, a big green cricket in a foam costume, would run out onto the field and dance around and throw T-shirts. But Matthew already had plenty of Cricket T-shirts. What he didn't have was ice cream. He waited in line and paid the last of his money for a plastic baseball helmet full of mint chocolate chip. When he got back to his seat, the sun had gone away. Matthew balanced his ice cream in the cup holder in front of him and frowned at his scorecard. In the space for weather, he had written sunny. He changed it to sunny/clouds. He put his scorecard aside and focused on his ice cream, which was beginning to melt. As he ate it, he shivered. The game was over. The Crickets had won 6-1, a blowout, but not a very exciting one. According to his scorecard, Billy Carney had a single and a walk, but no runs batted in. A good day, but not a great one. As always, Billy had bowed to the people when he ran out onto the field, and Matthew bowed back. When he hit a single with a sound like a judge's gavel, Matthew cheered louder than he had all day. He fixed the image in his mind. Billy Carney hustling down the first base line right in front of his eyes. He would tell his father about it when he got home, and he would remember it come winter. Matthew's dad had told him to call when the game was over and he would come pick him up. But now, standing outside the stadium, he didn't want to leave. He sat on a bench outside the stadium, making sure his scorecard was perfect. He erased wobbly lines and redrew them, straight, bold, and firm. Flawed letters, a wobbly K, a slouching B, he went over until they looked like they had been put there by a computer. By the time he was finished, nobody could have done a better job. Matthew looked up and saw the parking lot was empty. Behind him, the stadium was closed, and with it, the only payphone. How would his dad know to come pick him up? The sun was long gone now, and Matthew began to wish he had brought his parka. It was windy in the county stadium parking lot. He walked around the ballpark, hoping to find another phone, but all he found was cracked concrete and overgrown grass. On the other side from the outfield wall, he saw a battered old baseball, a forgotten home run from the season before. He picked this up and put it in his pocket. A boy can never have too many baseballs. Holding it as he picked his way across the gravel, he felt less afraid. As he completed the loop around the stadium, he heard a door close behind him. "Hey, kid," said a voice, and Matthew's heart leapt. It was Billy Carney, Out of uniform, he looked bigger than he did on the field, like he could crush a rock into dust with one hand. He was smiling, just like he had when he bowed to the crowd that afternoon. "You here by yourself?" "Kinda," said Matthew. "My dad's supposed to pick me up, but I don't have a way to call him." Silently, Billy took his cell phone out of his pocket and handed it over. Matthew dialed his father's number and told him to meet him by the main entrance. When he handed the phone back to Billy, he said thanks quietly. "No problem," said Billy. "You want some company while you wait?" "Sure," said Matthew as they walked back to his bench. "Enjoy the game today?" "It was pretty good," said Matthew. "That was a nice at bat you had in the sixth when you drew the walk." "Thanks. It must have been 7, 8 pitches." "It was 9," said Matthew. "I was counting." "Glad to know somebody's paying attention. Is that a baseball in your pocket?" "I found it on the other side of the center field fence. They don't clean back there as much as they should." "Want me to sign it?" Matthew handed Billy the ball, his heart in his chest. As Billy traced his wide looping signature across this grimy yellow leather, Matthew asked the question that had been bothering him all day. "Do you ever get sick of playing here?" he asked. "What do you mean?" "You're good enough to play in the majors." "I know it. You know it. The whole crowd knows it. You hit 27 home runs last year. You had 98 RBIs. You walked more than anybody else on the team. Doesn't it drive you crazy to be stuck down here in this crummy old ballpark playing for nobody?" For a moment, Billy looked hurt. Then a smile broke across his face, and he started laughing. "Are you nuts, kid?" he asked. "I get to play baseball for a living. It's not much money, but it's enough. And if I keep the people entertained here, who cares about the big leagues?" "Yeah? It's opening day. We're at the ballpark. What have we got to complain about?" All right, guys. So that is the text today. Your multiple choice questions, make sure that you underline all the support for your answers. You want to make sure that you use the strategy process of elimination to narrow down your correct answers, and you can put the paragraph number next to each question. Then our short answer questions. So for Matthew, what is the best holiday of the year? So you should be able to restate, answer, and underline the support. You don't have to do an RAC, just an RA. Number 9, when Matthew asks Billy whether playing for nobody in a crummy old ballpark drives him crazy, what does Billy say? So that one is, you could actually just restate and then put the C. So that one would just be an RC because your answer would be what he said, and you're getting that straight from the text. Number 10, what do Matthew and Billy have in common? Support your evidence with evidence from the passage. So this is going to be an RAC. And since it says support your answer with evidence, you do have to write the C. Okay? All right. I'm also going to read the grammar for this week. I will read that one time and on Mondays. So you guys are just doing 2 sentences a day. Number 1, have you watched the new Disney movie Onward on Amazon Prime yet? Asked Carter. Number 2, after I finish my breakfast, my dad takes me outside on the basketball court to work on the PE NTI work. Number 3, a square, rectangle, and rhombus all have 4 sides and 4 angles. Number 4, I've seen many kids at the Lawler Parade today. Some had signs and colorful balloons. Number 5, how many of you seen the Lawler mascot in Miss Kelly's vehicle this morning during the parade? Number 6, Miss Milliner, Miss Ashley, and I hope every student is staying safe and healthy by washing your hands and not touching your face. Number 7, Miss Janet misses being able to watch the NCAA basketball tournament on television every day. Number 8, spring break is coming up soon, so I wish I could go to the beach or visit family in Tennessee. Number 9, this is a great time to play board games such as Connect 4, Monopoly, Twister, and Hangman with your family. And number 10, today is a beautiful day to go outside and play. The sun is shining with very few clouds in the sky. All right, so that is your grammar for this week. You're going to correct the sentences and write them on the lines. You're only doing 2 a day. Your writing prompt for this week, you have all week to work on it. Write a letter to a fourth grade friend informing 3 things that they should be prepared for fifth grade. So finish by Friday, share with your teacher via Google Doc if possible. There is a new 30-point checklist in this packet, and I have uploaded the organizer on Google Classroom. So you're writing a letter, so that's your format, and your purpose for writing is informing. So I'm writing to inform. All right. Okay, guys. So that is all of today's read with me. So make sure that you go back and you look at that carefully. Miss Milliner is also reading the science and social studies for you all and uploading them on Google Classroom. You guys have a great Monday. I love you all. I miss you, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye.